In 1497, under the rule of Ivan III of Russia, Russia introduced a powerful legal code known as the Sudebnik. This was one of the first attempts to unify laws across the growing Russian state after Moscow began consolidating power. The Sudebnik standardized court procedures, defined punishments, and strengthened central authority. It reduced the independence of local princes and placed more control in the hands of Moscow. One of its most significant rules limited when peasants could leave their landowners only during a specific period around St. George's Day. This was an early step toward the system of serfdom in Russia. The code also introduced stricter penalties for crimes such as theft, bribery, and corruption. In short, the Sudebnik of 1497 helped transform Russia from a loose collection of territories into a centralized state under Moscow's control, laying foundations for the future Russian Empire. He was the first Tsar of all Rus, a nation builder, a devout Christian, a brilliant reformer, and a paranoid tyrant whose cruelty became legendary. His name was Ivan Vasilievich, but history remembers him as Ivan the Terrible. This is the story of the man who forged an empire in fire and blood, a ruler of staggering contradictions whose shadow looms over Russia to this day. To understand modern Russia, we must first understand the complex, terrifying, and brilliant mind of its first son. Born in 1530, Ivan ascended to the throne of Muscovy as a mere 3-year-old. His childhood was a nightmare of court intrigue, betrayal, and violence. Orphaned early, he was a pawn in the power games of the Bojars, Russia's powerful aristocracy. He watched them poison his mother, abuse his authority, and plunder the state. These early traumas planted seeds of deep-seated paranoia and a burning desire for absolute power. When Ivan finally came of age and was crowned Tsar in 1547, he was determined to be the sole master of his realm. The early years of his reign were surprisingly enlightened. Working with a group of trusted advisors known as the Chosen Council, Ivan initiated a series of sweeping reforms that would forever change Russia. He understood that a strong state needed a modern army. He created the Streltsy, Russia's first permanent, professional military force, armed with firearms and loyal only to the Tsar. This gave him a decisive edge over the boyar-led feudal levies. He didn't stop there. In 1550, he introduced a new legal code, the Sudebnik. It was a landmark piece of legislation that centralized the justice system, curbed the power of regional governors, and provided a more standardized legal framework for the entire country. He also reformed local government, giving more power to elected representatives of the lesser nobility and free peasants, further weakening the old Bojar clans. He convened the Zemsky Soba, the first Russian parliament of its kind, bringing together different classes to discuss matters of state. It seemed as if a new, more just and modern Russia was dawning. Ivan was a visionary, a builder, a force for progress. But this golden age was not destined to last. While building his state at home, Ivan looked outwards to expand the borders of his growing empire. His primary targets were the Tatar Khanates to the east and south, remnants of the Mongol Golden Horde that had dominated Russia for centuries. In 1552, he launched a massive campaign against the Khanate of Kazan. The siege was brutal and bloody. Ivan, a master of military logistics and engineering, oversaw the construction of a massive fortress just outside the city walls. After a prolonged and desperate fight, Kazan fell. The victory was a monumental turning point. It broke the back of a centuries-old enemy and opened the vast lands of the Volga River basin to Russian colonization. 4 years later, his armies marched south and took the Khanate of Astrakhan at the mouth of the Volga. giving Russia control of the entire river and access to the Caspian Sea. Russia was no longer a landlocked state. It was becoming a multi-ethnic, expansionist empire. Ivan's ambition was limitless. For nearly a decade, Ivan ruled as an effective and visionary monarch. But in 1560, tragedy struck. His beloved wife, Anastasia Romanovna, died suddenly. Ivan was devastated, convinced she had been poisoned by the treacherous boy. Her death shattered his world and unleashed the demons that had haunted him since childhood. The paranoia that had simmered beneath the surface now boiled over into a full-blown rage. He dismissed his chosen council, believing they too were part of the conspiracy. The reformer was gone, and in his place a tyrant was born. In 1565, Ivan unleashed a political masterstroke of terrifying genius. He divided Russia into two parts. The first, the Zemshina, would be ruled by the traditional Bojar Council. The second, and far more valuable part, he took for himself. He called it the Oprinina. This was his personal domain, ruled directly by him with absolute authority. To enforce his will, he created a new force, the Oprichniki. They were his private army, his secret police, his instruments of terror. Dressed in black, riding black horses, and bearing the emblems of a dog's head and a broom to sniff out treason and sweep it away, they became the most feared men in Russia. What followed was a reign of terror that would give Ivan his infamous title, Grozny, which more accurately translates to the awe-inspiring or the formidable, but has come to mean the terrible. The Oprichniki were unleashed upon the boyars and anyone else suspected of disloyalty. They seized lands, tortured, and executed thousands without trial. Entire families were wiped out, their wealth and property flowing into the Tsar's coffers. The terror was not random. It was a calculated campaign to systematically destroy the old aristocracy and anyone who dared to challenge Ivan's absolute power. The most infamous atrocity of the Oprichnina occurred in 1570. Convinced the city of Novgorod was plotting to defect to rival Lithuania, Ivan led his Oprichniki on a punitive expedition. For weeks, the city was subjected to a horrific massacre. Thousands of men, women, and children were tortured and killed in the most brutal ways imaginable. The city that was once the proudest and richest republic in Russia was left a smoldering, depopulated ruin. The sack of Novgorod stands as one of the darkest chapters in Russian history, a chilling testament to the depths of Ivan's cruelty. The Oprichnina had served its purpose. By 1572, the old Bojar class was shattered, and Ivan's authority was absolute. He disbanded his black-clad riders, but the scars they left on the Russian psyche would never truly heal. As Ivan grew older, his paranoia and violent outbursts only worsened. The pressures of ruling, constant warfare, and personal demons took their toll. The culmination of his tragic descent into madness came in November 1581, in a fit of uncontrollable rage during an argument. Ivan struck his eldest son and heir, Ivan Ivanovich, with his heavy, pointed staff. The blow was fatal. When the fury passed, the Tsar was left cradling his dying son, howling in grief and remorse. The famous painting by Ilya Repin captures this moment of horror perfectly. The father's eyes wide with madness and despair, the son's life ebbing away. With this single act, Ivan had not only killed his beloved child, but he had also doomed his own dynasty. His only remaining heir was his younger son, Fyodor, who was gentle but pious and intellectually disabled, completely unfit to rule the brutal world his father had created. Ivan the Terrible died in 1584, reportedly while preparing to play a game of chess. He left behind a legacy as contradictory as the man himself. He had doubled the size of Russia, transforming it from a medieval principality into a vast empire. He had centralized the state, crushed the power of the fractious nobles, and laid the foundations for the autocracy that would define Russia for centuries to come. But he did so through unimaginable brutality. He was a nation builder who terrorized his own people, a devout man who committed unspeakable sins, a modernizer who ruled with medieval cruelty. Was he a madman, or a ruthless political genius who did what was necessary to forge a modern state? Perhaps he was both. His reign stands as a powerful and terrifying reminder that the line between a great leader and a great monster can be perilously thin. The awe-inspiring, formidable, terrible Tsar is long dead, but the state he built, and the methods he used to build it, continue to echo through the corridors of Russian history. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the dark heart of Russian history fascinating, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration of the past. Let us know in the comments which historical figure you'd like to see us cover next. Until then, stay curious.